Imagine this. Snow everywhere, nothing but endless white. And buried beneath it, 6 people. No sunlight, not a single ray of warmth, and no help from the outside. They're trapped inside a cave, one formed deep within the ice, so far below that even GPS doesn't work. They're counting every single bite of food, melting snow for water, and every night they wonder, will we still be alive tomorrow? Days passed. Outside, the snow kept falling, and inside, fear kept freezing their hearts. Their bodies started going numb, fingers turning blue, but one tiny spark of hope still remained. How did this research team survive for 15 days in this icy grave of Antarctica? Did someone rescue them, or did they cheat death all on their own? This is the story of human courage, the kind that refuses to give up, even at minus 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Watch till the end, because this isn't just survival, this is a miracle. It was the year 2009, and a research team from Germany had reached one of the coldest and most desolate places in Antarctica, the edge of the East Antarctic ice sheet. The mission was clear but extremely risky, to drill out ice core samples from layers buried thousands of years deep, hoping to discover what Earth's past looked like and whether another ice age could be on the way. The team had 6 members, scientists, engineers, and support staff, who together set up a base camp in the minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit cold, pitched insulated tents, and installed powerful drilling machines. At first, everything went exactly as planned. Food was rationed, the weather was stable, and everyone was working with high energy and motivation, but everything was too calm. So calm that glaciologist Dr. Elias even wrote in his journal, "The ice feels a little too quiet." No one knew. The same ice they were digging into for answers was about to bury them alive. The very next day, around noon, while the drilling machines were cutting through the ice at full power, suddenly, the ground started to tremble. At first, everyone thought it was just the machine's vibration, but within seconds, tiny cracks began to appear across the surface of the ice, and then came a moment no one could ever forget. The ground beneath their feet began to collapse, and with a thunderous crack, 4 people dropped straight into an icy abyss. It was pitch dark below. The cold was so intense it could freeze your breath, and above them, layers of ice stacked meters thick, as if nature itself had sealed them inside a living, frozen tomb. The 2 people left on the surface screamed out, but their voices were swallowed up by the silence of the snow. The 4 who had fallen were now trapped nearly 80 feet down inside an ice cave, with no way out, no way to contact anyone, and the scariest part, no one even knew they were still alive. When the 4 opened their eyes, a terrifying truth stared back at them. They were now inside an icy cave, 80 feet deep, surrounded by cold, solid walls of ice, with no way out above. In the faint glow of their flashlight, they could see only frozen breaths, and on each other's faces, fear, exhaustion, and disbelief. Some of their gear had fallen with them. A small tent, 3 energy bars, a few batteries, and 1 emergency thermal blanket. They quickly assessed the situation. 1 member had a minor head injury. The other 3 were physically okay, but mentally shattered. In that darkness, they pitched the tent in a corner of the cave and made it their new shelter, the first small step in staying alive beneath the ice. But the real fear was just beginning. Not the fear of hunger or injury, but the silence. A silence that constantly reminded them only a miracle could get them out of this frozen tomb. For the first 2 days, they rationed what little food they had, half an energy bar each per day, and melted snow for water. Their bodies slowly began losing energy. But the real trouble started when freezing air from outside crept in and stole away the last bit of warmth inside the tent. By the 3rd day, 1 member's fingers began turning blue, the first signs of frostbite. Every night, the 4 of them huddled close together to preserve body heat. The cold was so brutal, ice had formed in the seams of their clothing. Their flashlight batteries began to die, and with darkness taking over, keeping track of time became impossible. And still, none of them was ready to give up. Every night, Dr. Elias would write 1 line in his notebook: "We are alive, today too." And in that pitch-black silence, with death all around them, that single line became their thread of hope, pulling them forward, moment by moment. Up above, the 2 remaining members at base camp immediately tried to send a rescue call, but the signal kept cutting out, and satellite connection had been completely knocked out by a raging snowstorm. After hours of effort, an SOS message finally reached McMurdo Station, but it was so far away that a helicopter couldn't reach them right away. The weather kept worsening, and flights were grounded for the next 5 days. The 2 remaining teammates were exhausted too, but they made up their minds. Until help arrived, they would carry tents, ropes, and heaters to the edge of that crevasse themselves, risking their own lives in the snowstorm. They managed to drop a small tent, packed with warm clothes, a thermal blanket, and emergency food, and tried lowering it down with ropes. When the 4 trapped below were finally able to touch that rope, for the first time in 5 days, they felt we haven't been forgotten. That tiny tent, in that situation, felt nothing short of a message from an angel. 10 days had passed, and now hunger had taken away the power to think. The energy bars were gone, and just drinking melted snow wasn't enough to keep their bodies going. One team member's condition was getting worse by the hour. His lips had turned blue, his body was shivering uncontrollably, and he was drifting in and out of consciousness. The other 3 tried their best to keep him warm, but Antarctica doesn't show mercy to anyone. There was no energy left in their bodies, no strength to shout, no light to hold on to. The last torch battery had died on day 9. And now, inside the tent, all they could hear were the echoes of their breathing bouncing off the icy walls. Outside wasn't any better. The rescue team was still waiting for the weather to clear. Every hour, every minute had become a battle, not just for the body, but for the mind too. They had no idea if anyone was even coming, and yet, every day, Dr. Elias scratched a mark onto the ice wall, as if to say, we're still alive. And those marks were becoming the only proof of a fight they refused to lose. Day 15. There was no complaint about hunger anymore. No sense of pain. Their bodies had gone numb, and their minds had completely given up hope. Inside the tent, now only 3 were left. The 4th had taken his last breath on day 13, and they had respectfully covered his body in one corner. But that very morning, when the howling winds suddenly began to ease, the sky above started to clear. From McMurdo Station, 2 rescue choppers lifted off, and around noon, 1 helicopter reached the location where the GPS had last tracked their signal. From above, it looked like nothing but a flat, endless sheet of snow. But then, a tiny movement. Someone had tried to shake the rope tied to the tent. The rescue team landed immediately and began unfastening the ropes, throwing down a flare to light up the darkness below. The 3 survivors saw that flare, and for the first time in 15 days, a spark of hope returned to their eyes. They had no strength left to shout, but tears rolled down their faces. After several hours of intense effort, the rescue team finally pulled them out, frail, frozen, but alive. And as the helicopter lifted off, there was just one question written across every face on that team. Did we really survive this? 15 days, buried under ice, with death looming over them. And yet they came back alive. This team proved that a human's greatest strength isn't the body, it's the will to survive. Coming back from Antarctica's white grave was nothing short of a miracle. But more than that, it was the ultimate triumph of human curiosity, resilience, and hope. If this story touched your heart, please share it, because someday, for someone, a story might just be the reason they choose to stay alive.